Hello, my name is Taja McGilberry. This is my case brief presentation for school law for teachers. The case that I will be sharing with you today is Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District. This case went before the Supreme Court in 1969. Parents filed a suit on behalf of their children against the Des Moines School District, alleging that their children's First Amendment rights to freedom of expression and free speech were violated when they were suspended after refusing to remove armbands protesting for peace in the Vietnam War. The First Amendment reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The 14th Amendment reads, No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive a person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Case was filed with the United States District Court. The District Court for the Southern District of Iowa ruled in the district's favor, citing that armbands could disrupt learning. The case was appealed and taken to the Supreme Court. In December of 1965, a group of students met in a private home. They decided to wear black armbands as a public show of their excuse me, as a public showing of their support for a truce in the Vietnam War during the holiday season. They also decided to fast on December the 16th and on New Year's Eve. The principal learned of the plan and held a meeting on December 14th to create and implement a policy where any student that was wearing an armband would be asked to remove it, and if they refused to remove it, they would be suspended from school. Mary Beth Tinker and Christopher Eckhart wore armbands to school on December 16th and were sent home. The following day, on December 17th, John Tinker, Mary Beth Tinker's brother, wore an armband and was sent home. The students remained at home until the end of their planned protest. Parents filed a suit against the school for violating their children's right to free speech during the suspension. The issues concerning this case are based on the First Amendment right to free speech. The principal cited a need to maintain the learning environment and that the armbands caused disruptions to that environment. West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett established that students have the right to constitutional protections in public school. Stromberg versus California set the precedent of symbolic speech, which is what this was considered since it was an armband. Citing that the armbands could disrupt the learning environment, the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Iowa ruled in favor of the school. The case was appealed in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit, but a decision was not able to be made. Students and their parents appealed to the Supreme Court. In a 7-2 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of Tinker. The armbands represented pure speech that is entirely separate from the actions of or conduct of those participating in it. The district cited that the armbands were disruptive but were not able to provide enough evidence that they were. Schools must show that the expression would cause a material and substantial disruption. Students have considerable entitlement to the freedom of speech, assembly, and association in the public school, as long as there is not material disruption of classwork or of any school activity, and as long as there is no substantial interference with the rights of others. In writing the majority opinion, Justice Abe Fortes said it can hardly be argued that either students or teachers shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. Justice Potter Stewart wrote that children may not necessarily be guaranteed the full extent for freedoms and rights listed in the First Amendment. Dissenting opinions argued that the First Amendment does not mean that opinions can be expressed at any time. Justice John M. Harlan argued that school officials should be given a wide authority in order to maintain order in the learning environment. Justice Black argued that the armbands did cause a disruption because they took the students' minds off of the classwork and diverted them to the thoughts about the highly emotional subject of the Vietnam War. He also stated that the majority's ruling was too restrictive on school officials and subjected schools to the whims and caprices of their loudest-mouthed students. While the First Amendment does give the right to free speech, expression, and assembly, there does need to be a test in place to guarantee the rights of others during school. A peaceful demonstration, such as wearing an armband, is not disruptive to the school environment and should be allowed. Justice Black argued that they were disruptive of the learning environment because students were then thinking about the war. However, the point behind an expression or a protest is to bring light to issues and to get people to think about them. Tinker versus Des Moines School District has set a precedent for future cases concerning the free speech and expression of students. The ruling has been used to defend the rights of students in other cases, including the wearing of an anti-abortion armband, a pro-LGBT t-shirt, and shirts that are critical of political figures. With the Black Lives Matter movement, there will inevitably be references to this case as students, parents, and educators will wear symbols of their beliefs on school grounds. A balance will need to be made where the learning environment is protected while the rights to free expression are not violated. My reflective question to you today is, do you feel that this ruling will be relevant in upcoming years in consideration of the Black Lives Matter movement? This is part of the reason that I chose this case, because I know that in future years this will become a frequently referenced case as students and even teachers and parents and community members wear symbols or protest um, their beliefs in the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, but I do feel like there should be some kind of balance so that when someone does protest or wear a symbol of their beliefs, they are not infringing on the rights of others, particularly in the educational setting. You know, a disruption to the classroom would be infringing on the rights of the other students because they have a right to a free and appropriate public education. Something that did really stick with me during this is Justice Abe Fortes's quote here. It says, "It can hardly be argued that either students or teachers shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate." Um, I believe this is true. Just because we walk into a school or walk onto the school campus does not mean that we um, don't have rights anymore. However, I do also believe in what Justice Potter Stewart said, that children are not necessarily guaranteed the full extent of their freedoms um, in the First Amendment when it comes to this kind of setting, because you can't just go and say and do whatever you want at any given time. That's not what freedom is, at least not, here. Freedoms can't be used as an excuse to infringe on the rights of others, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Uh, Let me turn to my references here, and I hope that you enjoyed my presentation. I look forward to reading your comments and watching all of your presentations. I hope that y'all have a great day.